Greetings, my paranormal patrons. This is the Monstrous Feminine Podcast Patreon, a space where horrible humans talk a little more about horror. My name is Zeba, and I'm joined by my Coven,
Louisa,
and Tyia.
And this is our bonus episode for our Doll Horror Month. Thank you so much to our May Queen pledges on Patreon for supporting us. Mila is off sick this episode, but she'll be back soon.
This episode, we're talking about the 2002 American psychological horror film May, directed by McKee. In this film, a young girl named May is born with a lazy eye, which leads to her being ostracized from her peers and growing up as a loner with a poor grasp of social cues. Her best friend is a doll gifted to her when she was a little girl by her mother, who told May, if you can't find a friend, make one. May, now older, works as a veterinary assistant with her lesbian colleague Polly, who frequently makes advances towards her. May develops a crush on Adam, a mechanic nearby, and the two begin dating, but Adam breaks it off with May after she bites his lip and draws blood when she became aroused by Adam's own cannibalistic film. May begins seeing Polly, but feels betrayed when Polly starts seeing another girl. Rejected and alone once more, May goes on a murderous rampage, collecting the body parts of those around her to build her own friend.
This was a wild ride. The interesting thing about this film is that despite the fact that we're supposed to think that she is unable to make friends, she somehow is able to pull a hell of a lot of romantic partners in a very short time frame. May was collecting these people like fucking infinity stones.
I feel like they're like predators.
Oh, interesting.
Are they not? Like, it freaks me out. I'm like, why? Well, we can back all the way back up, but to like the ableism piece of it. But I feel like they're taking advantage of her.
I don't know. Also, like, this film feels slightly similar to Ma, but maybe I'm just saying that because they're both veterinary assistants with a name that starts with an M and they couldn't make friends.
Okay, well, I mean, that's quite a lot in common, to be fair. I hadn't actually got that they were taking advantage of her. I guess I thought it was like, I guess I gave Polly and Adam more credit, but maybe I shouldn't have. I just kind of thought that they were like thinking that she's quirky and endearing, but then didn't realize how serious she'll take it, her weirdness. Like, she's not just like quirky, a little bit socially awkward, but her obsession with gore is a bit more, I don't know, she's not psychotic, but she's got some darkness. They realize the darkness and they opt out. I kind of thought it was more innocent, but it's interesting that you kind of thought it as like, I didn't really think of Adam as like trying to get a quick score. I don't know, particularly because he like leaves.
Not a score, but I feel like people just like, I don't know, like, and not that they like are just picking her because they see her as perhaps like naive and vulnerable, but rather that like, why are you attracted to her in the first place? Like, kind of like Tyia is saying, like, but not attracted to her, but like she is, I don't know, she's not giving anything that's like particularly sexy. So I feel like all these people who are attracted to her must see something I'm not seeing.
This is like a movie flaw where they need stuff to advance in the plot, so they'd be like, throw out logic for a second.
I agree. I think they needed to make her blonde or something, because the way I see like people throw themselves at like mediocre blonde white women is like serious. You know what I mean?
I was just saying when I was watching that scene, I'm like, this is so what a man would do. Like, make you look at their stupid art. But like the more realistic thing would be like, he's like, it's stupid, right? And like go fish for compliments or like over explain it. That was quite realistic. I feel like I went to liberal arts school and every single one of these characters I stayed far away from, but this is how I imagined that their like interpersonal interactions went. Just like who can out weird each other.
The extra detail there as well was that he said he dropped out of film school. So this wasn't even graded. Sorry, but like,
I was struggling to understand why he made the film about the topic and then was weirded out by her also being into it, because I feel like sometimes the way that men do horror and gore is because they get off on certain things. So I was like, that being said, like, it is valid to be weirded out by someone biting your lip very hard. But I thought it was going to be like a bones and all moment using like cool.
Wait, can I back all the way up and just ask, like, did y'all like this movie?
Okay, listen. It gets gay points. The way Tyia and Zeba have just both shaken their heads at me. I'm not saying that it was a good portrayal of queerness, because it wasn't. It was actually quite bad. I feel like this is typical, like, man wanting to write a lesbian and doesn't know how, so they just write a lesbian who speaks exactly like a man, and it's just, like, so inaccurate. Like, at one point, Polly is like, age, she's like, do you like pussy? While she's, like, dancing around her. And I was like, who? The subtlety of, like, I don't know, what's unsubtle? I don't know. I can't finish the expression. I was like, every queer person I know is, like, scared to ask if someone, like, especially their colleague is gay. Like, no one would outright, in my view, just, like, do that. And secondly, she then said, like, when May discovers her with the other woman, she's like, don't worry about her. She's just so hot. I just had to hit that. I was like, I don't know any woman who would speak about another woman in that way. I mean, maybe those Justin Bieber toxic lesbians on, like, TikTok do, but, like, certainly no one in my circle.
It was after that very scene that Ari exclaimed, I think this movie is making me homophobic. So perhaps.
It doesn't, okay, so when I said it got gay points, I mean in the sense that it made it more interesting, because I, at first, like, basically, when Polly came on screen, I was like, she seems really flirtatious, but, like, surely not, because I didn't know anything about this film going in. I was like, surely not. And then it became when she was like, do you like pussy? I was like, oh, so she is? So then I was just, like, more intrigued, because I was like, how are they going to finesse this? Not to say it was finessed at all. Not to say it was done well.
I actually did like this. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And honestly, like, I think I like this more than I liked Megan, because this actually feels like horror. And also, like, I don't think, I mean, I can't speak for obviously everyone, but, like, I do think Polly kind of reminds me of, like, this genre of woman that is so, like, ingrained in misogyny that they can't really see it. Whether it be like that this is like a queer woman or a straight woman, I've noticed this online a lot recently, that the way that some women talk about and to other women is from, like, a very misogynistic lens. Whether it's saying, like, I'm no better than a man when it comes to Sydney Sweeney and scenes on Euphoria, or it comes to say, like, heavily criticizing, like, an actress for aging, or comparing people based on who they like more. Like, if someone likes this pop star versus this pop star, they often attack them from, like, a misogynistic way. It's never really necessarily like their music is better or I like their music. It's usually like, well, she's a washed up hag now anyway. And that's why she could never be this person. Or, like, even the whole Selena Haley discourse that we saw all over the internet, which was insane, because honestly, that was a whole lot of nothing. And I've just noticed that a lot on social media. So I felt like, even though this is in 2002, Polly's character definitely still kind of resonates. There's, like, a large portion of people who have no idea how predatory they come across. Because in this film, even though, like, now that Zaba's pointed it out, I can see both Adam and Polly as being predatory. Polly is the only one that came off as explicitly predatory, because her advances were pretty much unwarranted and, like, unwanted for a good portion of the movie, where she actually had a crush on Adam. And so it made sense that he would, like, also be flirty. Polly was, like, low-key HR'd to step in at some point.
Lots of people pointed out that, like, May kind of gives Carrie vibes, in the sense of, like, they're kind of similar protagonists, because they're both, like, outcasts for whatever reason, a kind of hidden, you can hint it at, but overbearing mother in the case of May, overtly overbearing in the case of Carrie. And Jason Burke for Pop Horror said, as mates, she has, like, a late bloomer status, and she deals with rejection and experimentation. And it is a similar thing of, like, by the end of it, you kind of understand her, like, outburst, because it's like, you know what, everyone's been so cruel to me and, like, bullied or whatever. I guess I kind of saw it in that way, that it is giving Carrie vibes, but make it Frankenstein.
I feel like May was, like, Ma more than Carrie, because, like, in Carrie, like, her peers were putting her through it. And May is more like she got rejected by two romantic interests and she didn't have any friends and decided to kill people, which is, like, a very, like, white male thing to do. Um, she was not obligated to be in a relationship with either of these people, and they had every right to end it. And I don't think it's comparable to Carrie being, like, horribly humiliated by her peers and having them bully her relentlessly for her entire life. Because, I mean, even though she's, like, I don't feel like they explicitly explain whether she's on the spectrum in this movie, and that's kind of problematic, to be honest. Like, it seems like they're trying to use they're making her character appear like she's on the spectrum, but they're not really like they're not doing it from a pure place. They're doing it from like a this like exploitative place of like me like look at what a freak she is. This is why no one really likes her, and I'm like I don't really know if we're supposed to interpret her character that way or like if she's just supposed to be strange because she had a lazy eye, which many people have.
Because I've seen other children interact with other children, having worked with them who have like autistic tendencies, if they're like quite severe on the spectrum. And I do think that other children sometimes like fail to understand and they just think, oh, she's weird. I've just seen it in action. So I could imagine like how a physical trait combined with that might lead to her being ostracized. Not that I'm saying it's justified. I just think I kind of understood her like loner youth status.
And you know what? She was way more normal around the children than she is around adults. Like when she was in her teacher mode, I was like, okay, the way she was, I don't know, dressed up, maybe. She was just like code switching to a degree where I was like, I mean, you shouldn't be around children, but I wouldn't suspect that you're about to like introduce them to their demise either.
I don't really view her as like behaving any differently around the children. I actually think that she had a very childlike personality herself because she was like not she didn't get like that social development when she was younger because she was like so isolated and left out by her peers. So I kind of just saw her like being not more herself but more like developmentally closer to their age emotionally than when she's around the guy. Like her whole attitude is like very very like middle school crush how she behaves around Adam because she's never had that interaction and like attention from a man before, it seems like. So I didn't really see her as like code switching. I did see her code switching when she full on like loses it and then she's like walking around dressed as her doll and then she's all of a sudden able to like speak. Her voice gets lower, like she's no longer speaking in that childlike high voice. She's like all of a sudden quite sultry low voice and she's like able to understand all of a sudden, whereas before she'd be like quite hesitant and whatever. That was quite weird. I understand that she's gone a bit insane, but I don't think that would that make her suddenly like be able to behave like without the social awkwardness? I would have just assumed I don't know. That's what I mean. Like they haven't portrayed a realistic like person on the spectrum. They've just like created this like she's a bit of an oddball and now that she's like, oh, just kidding, now she's determined and like sultry and like sexy and she's gonna kill everyone, and now she's suddenly able to like behave quote unquote normally, you know what I mean? I'm like, well, that's not consistent with the rest of her character.
Yeah. I think this is kind of like split where they're kind of they're expressing a way as if they're saying like the doll is a part of her personality and it's like a separate person from her and that she's been performing as the doll and then once she decides that she's going to create a newer version of the doll, she starts performing a different personality.
I feel like this all could have happened without the doll too.
The doll was very much not a factor, to be quite honest.
We just needed the doll for that one line about like make your own friend, and then after that we don't really need a doll.
I feel like even though she was saying the doll was her bestie, she was not really that nice to it though.
Yeah, how do you treat your besties?
Well, no wonder she was getting dumped left and right. Like if she was that mean to her bestie.
What did you guys think of the ending when the Frankenstein creation pats her and strokes her face?
It freaked me out. I hated it. I averted my gaze.
I thought it was supposed to be like in her head that it happened and like not that it actually came
That
alive.
was more what I was asking.
Because I was like, ain't no way that would actually come alive.
I was gonna say, did you think that it was like an actual like suspend belief and like ooh, or is she just like fully lost the plot?
Yeah, I think she had like lost the plot when she took the doll to work with the at the school for the blind children. I think at that point it was over.
Why did they all get on their hands and knees?
For the drama. That was wild to me.
There's certain things in this film that just had to happen for the plot. So it was just like ignore every reason why this would make no sense.
All the children go, glass, put their hands in the air, which I'm like, okay, good, they know what to do. And then they all get on their hands and knees. And I was like, you were doing so well. What the fuck?
Again, no one else apparently worked at the school to be like, why are you coming in here with a doll in like a glass case to take into a classroom full of blind children? Like, no one thought it was weird.
Like when you want to bring like something quite tangible Not a doll you can't touch.
If my child went to the school, I would go off. Like, y'all don't vet with these random people who you also apparently don't do background checks on, bring into the classroom. They don't care. They had the ball below dropped at the school. What confuses me in the scenario of the film, though, is how she killed 2 people with a scalpel. Like, I was unconvinced that she would be able to pull these murders off. I don't think they gave her realistic tools. And I don't think she could overpower that many people. Like, she would be tired at this point.
I thought it was a good body horror, though. E.g., well, to be fair, I'm biased because I really can't handle eye stuff. So, like, if there's even the slightest bit of eye stuff, I'm going to be like, this is a phenomenal body horror. In this case, it really did just freak me out. I was like, no, the bleeding eye. I was like, don't do it. It was a bit strange to me because, I mean, I was under the understanding that she viewed her lazy eye as a flaw because that's what she's been taught. And she seems obsessed with, like, perfect body parts. Do you know what I mean? And like when Polly, she sees the mole on Polly's hand, she's like, have you ever thought about getting that removed? And like the cattiest comment ever. And then she's like collecting everyone's like really their best feature, the best body part. But then she gives the Frankenstein doll like her own lazy eye. And I thought, oh, well, wouldn't she have given it the good eye? Like, you know, the one that wasn't lazy. So I thought that was a bit maybe perhaps incongruent.
I needed a likable character, maybe. Like, I found them all so unlikable that it was hard for me to engage with rooting for anybody. Because, like, normally, even if it's like, oh, there's somebody I dislike a lot, at least we're, like, all ganging up to, like, show how that person is wrong. But this just felt like, God, like, very particularly insufferable. In the same way that, like, Only Lovers Left Alive, where I'm like, I'm begging you for a likable character because I can't hear y'all go back and forth for the next 2 hours. It was just similar for me.
I do feel sorry for May. I don't think she's likable, but I feel sorry for her.
She had no excuse for being how she was, murderously, not awkwardly. She's allowed to be awkward, just like don't kill anyone about it.
No one did anything to her that felt like it warranted that. It was like she getting revenge on getting dumped and Polly dating another girl who's actually gay and into her. Like, I don't know what the fuck you want me to say. Like, also, she didn't do anything, and neither did Adam's girlfriend. They had nothing to do with that. Adam's girlfriend had never even had a conversation with her. Like, imagine just being at your boyfriend's house and then some random girl he dated years ago with a lazy eye be like, it's time for you to die.
It wasn't years, but yeah.
This is like those early 2000s revenge stories where I appreciate that they didn't make it a rape revenge because that would have been much more annoying. But I was just like, she doesn't really have a reason to be angry with these people. Like, if she was going back into people who bullied her in school or something, I'd be like, fair game, okay. They didn't really do anything to warrant her to be this angry with them.
Well, that was going to be another one of my questions is like the kind of Barbara Creed female castratrice character who like, you know, goes around and like stabs people. She did do that, but it wasn't, you're right, Tyia, in that it wasn't a rape revenge story, which is typically the motivation for that kind of Barbara Creed archetypal female character in horror. I think it was pretty light on the mon femme.
Like, really surprisingly so, because it feels like it has those undertones or perhaps even overtones.
She kind of becomes a mother to the friend that she creates in a way. Like, the way that she finishes it off by giving it a part of herself and arguably the most flawed version of herself. Maybe the same way that her mother started her off with like socialization from a very flawed perspective of if you can't find a friend, make one. She kind of like takes it a step further and also spreads like flawedness, I guess, in her eyes.
Yeah, maybe like archaic mother vibes. Also, the fact that it's created from her, it's only like comes alive when it has her eye, and she's obviously like projecting this. But I think that's more like, I feel like with dolls, we're more in like uncanny valley. Like, I wouldn't say this is like reincorporation like we typically talk about. It's more about like a projection of yourself rather than like wanting to absorb your children back into your room. Like, I don't really feel like it's giving archaic mother in that way. It's just giving uncanny and like not doppelganger quite because it doesn't look like her, but in the sense that she's like stunted socialization. So she's like building herself, her ideal version of a person. Yeah, it's difficult to say. I think it's quite mon femme.